Cool. Okay, so my name is Ray Albarez. I will probably give you my graffiti name throughout this thing, but I try not to. I'm hiding in plain sight. I started back in '95. As you see, like, that's me, 15, 16 years old, painting in Deep Ellum at Ace Parking Lot. The photo below, there's an event called Paint Lewis, and the other one is, which I think I've kind of thought of like being a graffiti artist doesn't keep you from being an artist. So I still I try not to say I do graffiti because I do art, you know, or I try not to separate them. So that's why I started doing like self-portraits, because I think every real artist or every artist has gone through a self-portrait phase. So that's what I think I should do as well, because I am an artist. So yeah, so that's kind of who I am and how I started. And for me, it's whenever I go paint, I look for surfaces. For me, it's what do I want to, like I ask myself on a Monday or Tuesday, like what do I want to paint? For me, it's, you know, is it metal? Is it brick? Is it cinder block? Is it drywall? And I try to find locations for that. And even sometimes are, you know, something that's highly visible. Like street spots I even go so far as like, do I even want to go anywhere? You know, do I just throw on a headset and, you know, do graffiti in VR? And I also do a lot of, whenever I go paint, I always think of how can I take this with me as an artist? Because obviously I'm painting there and it's like, it's for me, but it's also like there's a lot of people that kind of look at it and admire it. So I'm like, how can I bring that back and inspire people? So I also look for something that's photogenic, you know, like if there's something cool in the background, obviously like if there's, you know, the Calatrava Bridge, and so I have to kind of be everything, you know, I got to be the painter, got to be the photographer, got to be the storyteller, and sometimes it's a lot, but you know, it kind of revolves around, you know, like it's a lifestyle as well, you know, it's like it's not just I'm an artist at this one time when I'm painting. I'm an artist like the whole day, because I'm constantly thinking about it. As I'm driving down the freeway, I'm like, what would make a cool piece? Like, what would be a good photo? You know, how do I record myself so that people will want to see it? Or how can I make it a performance art, which I think it definitely is. It's like, it's basically, you know, again, like it's a lifestyle. There it goes. So then I tell myself, like, what do I bring back? So obviously it's photos. Sometimes it's those, you know, the same photos that I take and I repurpose them onto objects that I find. Sometimes it's bricks, sometimes it's signs. I actually had a weird story about like just taking basically a ghost brick with me and not knowing it, and just bad shit started happening around me. And it wasn't until I had to spend money on it and I was just like, fuck this, like I'm gonna go take this brick back because it's, you know, it's a bad brick. So I put it back on the wall and you know, I just whispered to myself, I'm like, okay, I'm bringing you back, like stop messing with me. And that was it, and then everything was fine. So, you know, it's kind of that space of like, again, that's where kind of like the lifestyle of being an artist is, like that's just, you know, it's all encompassing, you know, I sleep thinking about graffiti, about art. You know, take certain things, you know, it's like, how do I make it an art piece where someone will say, yes, graffiti is art? And luckily I've been able to do that since, you know, for a while. The other thing I do is I've got a blurb account where I actually sell books that I make of all the photographs that I bring with me. And I do that every year to kind of, at first it was just for me. It was, how do I document it? And how do I say, how do I keep track of where I started and where I ended? And, you know, what did I improve? And I try to take everything, whenever I paint a piece, it's like I add a little small thing. I add a certain highlight. I add a certain bar, and then that'll pop up in the next few pieces. And then there's a certain bubble or a certain pattern I do, and it just keeps improving. It goes from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. And it's just a constant progression. I don't think, part of me thinks like sometimes being in these spaces where it's kind of dangerous, maybe it's part of me, I don't know, just not caring so much, or just being like, I just want to paint. where I don't think about it. Great, my time is almost up. Then I'm just like, let's just, we'll just see what I can do. The other thing I do is trigger fingers, and this week, or in a month, we're going to have an art show curated by Rome, which is Real Ones Around Me. And then it's going to be at the Trinity Groves area. That's April 5th. It's open to the public, 12 to 4. We've been doing it for 7 years, but it's the 6th year because we skipped COVID year. We've been Dallas Observer, we make our own magazines, and we just invite some of the high-profile graffiti artists in the nation. We had Tristan Eaton, we had Shepard Ferry, the DF crew from Denver, and it's cool that it's a little tight-knit crew that we kind of work with. So, but this is the new space that we're working in West Dallas. And then these are just the different locations I'm at, and we can probably not even play this video. No, we cannot. Or yes, it goes straight to it. So that is my last 52 seconds, I guess. So that's me painting in the space. So that's, for this certain time that I went to go paint, it was a crew of people that came in from Austin. It's an all-girl graffiti crew. And they were like, hey, can we go paint? And I was like, yeah, let's go do it. And obviously I was busy filming myself, but this is kind of what it looks like whenever I go paint. And when it's the most boring and nothing happens, that's when it's the best time to paint. So if you try to ask for an invite, it's usually like, don't expect anything crazy, because I don't want anything crazy to happen. I just want to go in there to paint. So, thank you. Yes.
Are y'all having conversations in the graffiti community about appropriate spaces to paint and inappropriate spaces to paint? Like on the boat over next door, we get where all the time some of the work is great, but it's very damaging to our historic building. So like, how do y'all as artists have that conversation?
Well,
how do you feel about people painting on probably inappropriate spaces?
I think it's amazing. I love all the tags. I love all the fire extinguishers. I think it's great, but obviously I understand, but that's part of the charm as well. It's like, the best place for graffiti is where it's not the best place for graffiti, And that's just me personally. Obviously, I would never, there is a common rule, like no churches, I do a no business, no small business, no business type of thing, because people have to spend money on taking that stuff off. But I think everything is just, free range. It's like we want public art, I just want to see art, and I want to express myself in a certain way, and I don't mind doing tags all over the city or doing throwies or doing pieces everywhere. And, I feel comfortable with it, And again, that's just the best place for it is where it's not the best place for it, So yeah. So, and as far as the community, everyone is kind of to themselves and not so much. And then that's where kind of beef comes into play, where it's like if there's a certain community that you paint mostly and someone comes in there, they go over you or they paint this certain spot, you can, tell them, but then they'll have some animosity for it, be like, well, I can paint wherever I want, and then that's where that grows as well, So, but yeah. I don't know, that probably doesn't answer your question, but that's sure. Yeah.
So I know with the books, it's not something new necessarily to you, but I wanted you to speak a little bit about that, because I was looking through the book that you donated to our library, by the way. If you all want to see one of Ray's books of his work, we have one in the library, and it's lovely. But I just wanted you to speak a little bit more about like what inspired you to start making books and add this like level of permanence to this kind of ephemeral art.
Well, it all starts obviously back when I first started. It was little Kodak, the ones that you would kind of turn like spin so you can kind of get to the next reel or whatever. But those were your hard copies. That was the only evidence of whatever you did. And there was a big community back then where we would trade hard copies, which is just 4x6, 5x7 photographs, and online. And you just send these photographs to a stranger. The stranger sends you back other photographs, like trains or whatever. And then obviously that does cost money, and I started thinking about how can I do this without having to buy 4x6 prints, without buying a photo album, and how can I make it sustainable? Like how can I, because I don't get paid for doing graffiti on the street, so that's kind of my way of getting all of that in one go. It's like I have my hard copies, I'm able to sell them to kind of invest in my art form. And it's something for me to kind of flip through and see like where my progression is and see where I'm going. And you know, it's just, I just feel, I started it because it was for me. Like, it was never a big push to do it. And then even now, it's like, if you follow me on Instagram, I don't really push it that hard, which I probably should, because it is something valuable, I think. But that's kind of where it started. It was just for me to document and see where my progression is. And eventually now it's like I'm trying to tell a story. So, you know, I talked to Harrison about, like, how do I improve my writing to talk about my work? Because I know it's very difficult to kind of, because most of the work I do will not be seen, and it's, you know, torn down. It's, you know, no one really cares. It's just like, you know, but that's just what I like to do. I started doing like self-portraits because...
So, and the thing that are those little ghosts or those blobs, and toe in the art world kind of outlined in the red, and I started...
Please use Harrison. You do these things so you feel a connection to the person. Like I said, I came from Nicaragua when I was a couple.
And I'm going to read like what I wrote here, as a lot of my colleagues are. All right, well,
So my goal for Cedars Union, not respond, but you can follow me if you want.
so here's a little bit about what I've published in the past.
We were talking about this the other time. Yeah, I would love to.
It looks much smoother on my screen.